board. And the election will be October 2nd at the full board meeting, which, as announced before, will start later than usual so that everybody will have a chance to vote. Thank you.
What time will the voting continue during?
It will start in the meeting, and I think we'll make sure that everybody who comes to the meeting has a chance to vote. I think that's the fairest way to do it.
Once we open the business section, I will give the chair's report. We will then vote on there will be a vote, and then we will continue with the business.
And how long do you have to submit your ballot?
It's about 5 minutes. That's what it always is.
5 minutes once you get your ballot to submit it?
Once we open the election, it's fine. It doesn't take long to fill out a ballot.
I think the question was more how late you arrive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that?
How late do you arrive at the meeting?
8 o'clock.
You have a portion.
Sure.
So I've been on the board for a long time. I just got appointed the election committee tonight, so I didn't review our bylaws. But if Josh was saying you can, if for some reason the first round, the second round has not produced the winner,
Yeah,
you
keep
can
going.
show up at the meeting at 9:30, you can then start voting.
Right.
I don't think that's
No.
true.
No, in the bylaws, what it says is that you vote in the first round. If you're present for the second round, you can vote in the second round. It doesn't say you can't. So.
Just point of information, don't we need 5 people on the elections committee?
We have up to 5.
Okay.
Okay, so anyway, the election will not start until 8 p.m. on the 2nd of October. Everyone is what's going to happen is everyone that's nominated will have a chance to speak. There'll be a chance for Q&A. So you're not going to walk in at 8 o'clock and vote. You're going to walk in at 8 o'clock and hear everybody's little speech. And then there'll be a chance to vote. The actual voting doesn't take very long. Sarah has just decided that she can't run for 2 positions, so she's just going to run for secretary. Our Assembly Member Linda Rosenthal is here.
Hi, everyone. It's good to see all of you. Summer's over, I think. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. No, actually. It's good to see all of you. Every summer I say that it's going to be lighter, not as much work. It's always untrue. And that's because, people have issues that they need state or government intervention no matter what the season. Landlords harass people out of their apartments no matter what the season. So it actually was quite a busy summer. Some of the things that my office dealt with are on a very local level. One is the M57 bus. So my office is at 77 between Broadway and West End. The M57 stopped right near Broadway. The developer of the building right next to 200 West 72nd, unclear whether he requested it or not, but the bus stop was moved all the way down to the end of the block, which was just too difficult for a lot of people to navigate because they wanted to go to Broadway. So after many phone calls, letters, site visit with DOT and the MTA, they finally moved it back. I'm grateful that they moved it back. They spelled drop wrong, so it says drop off only. But we work in incremental strides here. But I'm happy that they restored the bus drop-off point to where it was before. We talk a lot about improving the MTA and the buses. We have to make sure that the people who use them, their voices are included in these decisions. As you know, I'm zealous on the 104 bus, and we're keeping tabs on it until the New York City Transit comes out with its totally revised bus route. But they know how important the M104 is. The trash, the issue of the trash, I've been hearing about for quite some time. The New York Times did a story on how in Harlem and in other places, the streets are filthy because sanitation department decided to remove the trash cans, thinking, well, if there are no trash cans, people will just not throw it on the street. But they don't know New York, and people did throw it on the street. But also a lot of visitors are here. They don't know how it is here, and a lot of litter. Hopefully they will put them back, because here on the Upper West Side, my office did a mini survey and found many blocks without trash plans. So we wrote to sanitation, and hopefully they will replace those. Also make sure that everyone does their job, because it really does look filthy in some places. Flu shot day, October 24th. So mark that down. Come to my office 10:30 to 1:30. October 24th for your free flu shot. Senator Serrano and I had an op-ed in the Daily News last week about glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup produced by Monsanto. A poor man in California whose job it was to be the groundskeeper in California School District was awarded $249 million in damages. Sadly, he won't be around to use it because he is sick with lymphoma, which many trace to Roundup. So Senator Serrano and I have a bill to have the city and state cease spraying it in parks and playgrounds and other public areas. So when we go back to Albany, hopefully we will get that done. I have 2 bills signed into law. I'm expecting a few, 10 others or so. One is patient brokering to outlaw it with the opioid crisis. There are people who are paid by treatment centers, often in Florida, to go find them patients who use up all their Medicaid dollars on fake treatment or inappropriate treatment, and once their dollars run out, they're tossed in the streets, still struggling with substance use disorder. My law will make that illegal. And one final thing, because I know you have a big agenda. I'm the sponsor of the Child Victims Act in the New York State Assembly, which has passed twice already. It is extending the statute of limitations for victims of child sexual abuse who are now adults, and there's no way for them to seek justice in the courts. It also has a 1-year look-back window, so people who were abused 30 years ago, 20 years ago, whose time limit to go to court and sue has passed, will have a 1-year look-back window. In the Senate, it's carried by Senator Harlan. Hopefully, he'll be able to pass it in January. The thing is, with the shocking revelations in Pennsylvania that more than 1,000 kids were sexually abused by 300 priests over the course of 70 years. So there's talk of the DAs here in the state convening grand juries and investigating. The point is that until the law is changed, you may come up with cases of priests who have abused children, but there's nothing to do with that information unless we pass this bill into law. And some people, maybe they're up for re-election, are like, oh yeah, now I support it. Like, you should have supported it when it was crucial to vote on it. Hopefully that'll happen in January, and it is an issue that, the church blocking the passage of this bill means that the 90+% of survivors do not get their issue addressed. Because while the church is one of the culprits that's blocking, but also the most public, they're blocking justice for the many, many thousands of people who were abused by a neighbor or someone in a different kind of institution. So it's important to get that done. Don't forget to vote, September 13th. It's a Thursday. Also, a lot of some polling sites have been changed. So mine, for example, 4 times in like 8 years. And so make sure to check where you vote. You should have each received a mailing saying where you're polling places from the Board of Elections. So back to the show. Thank you all for listening.
So, some
Aldo in my office. He's gone off to California to law school. So I've hired someone else. Please stand up. Her name is Caitlin Lettery. And she doesn't have that charming British accent, but she is charming in her own way. And please welcome her to the board, and she'll be
Hi. Get it on here. No, I can't. I'm using my phone because I don't know what.
We're now going to go into community session.
Yeah, you could ask John.
Our first speaker is Chris Giordano. We're going to do the election. Did you start? Okay, the first speaker is Chris Giordano, followed by Brian Dubois.
Hi, I'm Chris Giordano, 65th and 66th Streets Block Association. After many months of persistence, we finally were granted a meeting with the Department of City Planning, which took place this afternoon. You may know some of our concerns were about development in our neighborhood, a super tall building. So City Planning was good enough to talk to us about the exploitation of voids, but they agreed in their terms they were egregious and obscene. I think those were the words they used. We talked about zoning lot mergers. But what came to mind in the meeting, what came to light in the meeting, which I think deserves everybody's attention, is it turns out the FDNY is not being communicated with about these voids and the issues of safety and fire safety, and particularly first responder safety with these voids. Apparently the FDNY is very upset about this, and I think rightly so. And it appears that the community needs to continue to put pressure on our government, our agencies, to address these issues, which seems unfortunate and remarkable in this case. Thank you for your assistance.
Brian is going to be followed by Julian Giordano. After that, Lori.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Dubois. I'm here with the New York City Commission on Human Rights. For anyone that's not familiar with the Commission, and for anyone that haven't met, we are the city agency that enforces the city's anti-discrimination law. The primary announcement that I wanted to make tonight is regarding the Stop Sexual Harassment Act, which was recently passed by the City Council. Effective this Thursday, September 6th, all businesses in the New York City area will be required to post this notice in the workplace, basically just informing employees and customers about their rights under the New York City Human Rights Law, specifically with regard to sexual harassment. So we're just doing everything that we can to make everybody aware that effective Thursday that will be required as a posting in all businesses. Thank you.
Julian.
Sorry, I didn't sign up to speak. I signed up to be on the mail list, I think.
Okay. You have to go online and get on the mail.
Okay, there was four.
Follow us on Follow us on Twitter.
I do.
Okay, good.
Hi, my name is Lori Margilarago. I'm from Speaker Corey Johnson's office. I just wanted to say, I know tonight on the agenda is the super tall buildings. Doing something wrong. Thank you. I just wanted you to know that Speaker Johnson with other electeds, including Gail Brewer's office and several other electeds, signed on to a letter requesting a meeting with Marissa Lago, the chair of the City Planning Commission, because of all the egregious things that are going on in terms of the super tall buildings. I just wanted to let you know that.
Our next speaker is Ariel and Elizabeth, followed by Paige Howard.
Hi, good evening. My name is Melissa Diaz. I'm here from the American Museum of Natural History. I'm joined by my colleague Ariel DuVernay. And we're here to let you know about what's happening at the museum this September and October, including our Adventures in Science program, which introduces children from pre-K to grade 5 to a variety of scientific disciplines, with hands-on investigations and interactive tours of the museum. Children who are interested can begin registering now. Our first Paleo Discoverers is coming up in October. You can contact our central reservations to register children for that. Our next sleepover for adults will be September 21st. There are still tickets. And on September 25th, we are inviting members of the public to join us at the Hay Planetarium for our Astronomy Live Mars 2020 interactive tour of the red planet from the perspective of the Curiosity rover.
We also have the Side Cafe, which is an event that we have every month that includes presentations and cocktails. If you go on the website this month, you can register. This month, it's going to be the Milky Way as you've never seen it before. We also have a night at the museum sleepover for children, ages 6 to 13. It's going to be Halloween themed. I know, I can't believe October is right around the corner. So get your costumes ready. And we also have the Margaret Mead Festival. This year it's going to be from October 18th to the 21st. It's going to reflect stories of resilience, portraits of strength and action. So please visit our website and central reservations to get your tickets. Thank you very much.
Followed by Samuel Bartel.
I'm actually going to speak to both sides because I'm wearing my hat as Landmark West chair. Two things you have to do next week. The first one, of course, is vote on primary day, Thursday, September 13th. After you vote, you must come to Holy Trinity Church, West 65th Street, in Central Park West. George Daines will be presenting his zoning challenge for 50 West 66th Street. I have not seen the draft he's been working on for the last 3 weeks, but I think it's important because this is our second most important super tall that's in progress, just like 200 Amsterdam. The circumstances are very different, so we are being challenged with another set of conditions that we want to address. The other concern is, again, as Roberta said, we have been working with all of the electeds and the various agencies to get them to weigh in. The speakers list is not listed yet. This will go live tomorrow from Landmark West. So remember, if you can't miss it, it's a finger with a ribbon tied around it, vote, and then come here about 50 West 66. Thanks.
Hey, I'm sorry, question. So what time and where on the first
It's
day?
gonna be at Lutheran Church at 6:30.
On the first floor, that's 100th and,
Yes.
100th across from the police precinct?
No, this is.
Samuel Bartel.
Park West. It's the fifth, Central Park West entrance.
65th and Center Park West?
Yes,
Okay.
that one. And, you'll see this live, you can go online to the Landmark West website and get all the information.
Hello, I'm Sam Bartels from Ryan Health. Just wanted to check in and give the community a few updates of what we are doing to create access for the community. I will start with some of the things in collaboration that we're doing with Mount Sinai to improve the diabetes treatment program. We have an integrated program with a community of certified diabetes nurses and providers that will coordinate care for patients. So we encourage people to at least check it out and explore if they have any questions. I don't know if you heard about 2-3 weeks ago, we were lucky to get a grant for about $300,000 that we bought a mobile medical unit that's going to be all over the community. So when you're doing the program and you want to invite us, we'll be happy to come with a team of nurses and nurse practitioners to do outreach. We are reaching out to the community. If you have anything going on, you want us to come and do outreach or screening or anything like that, I'll leave my card there, you can reach out to us. We also are doing one very important thing starting next month, which is the medication assisted treatment program. This is to deal with the opioid epidemic that we're dealing with throughout the city. It's integrated in our practice, and nobody knows. You can just walk in and get this treatment. This is very, very important. We got a head start grant and want to make sure that the community is aware that we have trained professionals to treat opioid addiction. So please feel free to reach out to us.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Daly, and this is my neighbor, Ginger Kerwin. We're residents of West 67th Street, and we just wanted to make you aware of a problem that has occurred. Because Extel is building on West 66th Street, they apparently took over the parking spaces for ABC. So they took them over 66. And then what they did was they took all of the parking spaces on the south side of West 67th Street and designated them as NYP, New York Press parking spaces. So therefore, West 67th Street is really pretty much a residential street. So our neighbors and our employees don't have places to park anymore. The parking spaces are basically only used by NYP press people until like 7 o'clock at night. So in the evenings and on the weekends, that whole side of the street is empty. And this happened a couple of weeks ago on a Friday night. They just came to the Department of Transportation, came in and changed all the spaces.
Hi. I used to live on that street for about 11 years. How has it changed from what it currently was before? Because ABC owns a considerable.
ABC owns 3 buildings on the south side of the street, which are all being sold to Silverstein. And but right now, they have parking in front of all of those. There's also 3 residential buildings, number 2, number 40, and number 50 on the south side of the street. ABC also has a big generator of some sort. We hear that maybe their air conditioning isn't working, that uses like 3 spaces on the south side of the street also. So
Very, very noisy.
Yes.
Very noisy. So the other thing we noticed is that the NYP seems to use the word vacant.
yeah, some of them don't. Some of the cars that are parked there don't even have NYP plates, but they have are laminated cards. My daughter took a picture of them. She thought she could make some up, actually, so that our neighbors could park there. But they're laminated cards that they just put on the dashboard. So it's kind of an abuse of that system. So we thought maybe we're trying to figure out who to talk to about this, and if anyone has any suggestions, let us know.
And I would let the records know as well.
I think, at least I'm a little confused. Are you saying that there have been spaces on the block for some time designated for the NYPD press? Or are you saying?
It's not the NYPD, it's the New York Press.
New York Press, and who is that?
The press,
ABC.
Okay, so, spaces would be designated by the police or somebody else. Has this been done?
No, I have nothing to do with it.
It's designated by the DOT. And if I worked for any media company and I had a press, I could park there.
So since our assistant is from here in the chair, it seems to me that this is something that both of you all have to clarify.
So I also looked online, and NYP plates are supposed to be like around Madison Square Garden, Lincoln Center, where reporters need to go in and cover a story, and they need to park quickly. Not for people that are working all day, and that's what's happening with these spaces.
I recommend talking with the electeds and the DOT. Our next speaker is Dan Cohn, followed by Devin Milbury.
Hang on a minute. Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Dan Cohen. I serve on the Community Advisory Board for Mount Sinai Hospital West, along with my colleagues Shelley Fine and Audrey Isaacs, who will serve on this group. And I wanted to express concern and dismay at the closing of the birthing center at the hospital. While the hospital is technically just across the border in Ward 4, many of the residents of this district use that hospital. And my wife and I, when our son was being born 6 years ago, chose the hospital because of the birthing center. Now, for complicated reasons, and thankfully completely resolved, we didn't actually wind up using the birthing center, but our son was born in that hospital. But many women use that hospital because of its reputation. And I know that it's going to be an item of some
discussion in a few weeks at the Community Advisory Board. I would urge this board to explore in greater detail the announcement of the closing of the birthing center at the end of this year, and hopefully register objections to see if we can prevent that from happening. I also wanted to switch subjects completely and just announce that Annabella Vilas Playground, which has been strongly supported by this board, is having its My Park Day on Sunday, September 23rd, from 11 to 1. Free puppet show, face painting, t-shirts, ball planting if you can't get enough of that. And lastly, Valley Restoration is continuing to work on planting trees in Manhattan Valley. We're going to be looking at a test pilot of a cross street and an avenue to be announced later this year. Thank you. Yeah, sorry. So, as I understand, they are replacing it with more paid rooms. The birthing center doesn't generate the same level of income. Those paid rooms, $1,000 a night or something. So, there's a strong, as I understand, a strong financial incentive for the hospital to replace the birthing center, which is not as cost-effective, perhaps, is the sort of neutral, somewhat evil term. Yes.
So, where is the nearest birthing center if this one were to be displaced?
Sure. So there was I don't want to disparage it, but I believe it's less equipped birthing center in Lower East Side, and there's another one, as I understand it, less sophisticated in Brooklyn. I don't want to trash other birthing centers, but in conversations with people who are involved in the birthing center at this hospital, they describe the other birthing centers as, I mean, I don't think it's a matter of pride, I think it's a matter of sort of equipment and sophistication, that this one in Mount Sinai is superior significantly than those other two.
Yeah, basically, my understanding from the people at Mount Sinai is that in the past, the birthing center was a unique unit. Now, each room where a person can give birth will have the capacity to use the midwife approach rather than the medical approach, but it won't be a unique unit. So it's a question of whether, and I've made some inquiry to that, people who are inclined to use the birthing center want to be in a unique unit or not. And I'm told they would prefer to be in a unique unit rather than just be mixed in with the other population of women giving birth.
Not that I speak from personal experience, but the understanding is that the birthing center also has a sort of, basically sort of quiet and calm area. There's no equipment, there's no sort of deep involvement in the woman's pregnancy unless she wishes it, and it's kind of hard to do that side by side when you have equipment and you don't. I urge this board to look at it more clearly at the appropriate committee. Thank you.
Next is Devin Milbury.
We invited him tonight at our committee, he's Devin Milbury.
Yeah, sorry, my name is Devin Milberg, and I'm here to introduce a new composting service that I started on the Upper West Side. For those who don't know, for the past couple of years, the traditional ways people have composted are either with their buildings through an optional program with the city, or at one of the very well-run sites at a farmer's market, like the Grow NYC site at 81st and Columbus, that's open on Sundays, and sites like that. I'm trying to make composting more accessible and easier to do by running daily drop-off sites outside of highly trafficked train stations, including the one train station at 86th Street and at 79th and Broadway. We're open Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. And we charge a convenience fee of $1 for drop-offs. And we've been running since March of this year, and we've collected about 1,000 gallons of compost at this point. Yes, so in order to have the waste carted and maintain the sites, we sell a sticker at the site, and people put it on the bag that they drop off their compost in, and that basically is just a confirmation of purchase.
And it goes into a bucket.
Yes, yeah, we have right now we have a 64-gallon toter at each site, and the bags are just dropped off into the sites.
Jennifer, you have
yes.
Where are you actually dropping off the ends of the compost?
Okay, so right now Action is taking, an environmental call to action is taking our waste to facilities in New York. Yes.
You think of what you should include in that bag and what you should not include?
Yeah, so right now we accept vegetables and basically anything except for meat, fat, and dairy, just because of the way of where we're storing our waste, where we're storing the compost.
One or two more questions. Do you have any brochures or home?
Yes, for sure. I'll send that to you.
Kevin, you might just say what your website is so people can check.
Yeah. So it's a very preliminary website, but it's 3zcompost.weebly.com. 3zcompost, so 3 and then the letter Z, so number 3 letter Z, compost.weebly.com. Yeah, WEEBLY. And you can also email us at 3zcompost@gmail.com. Yes.
Devin, can a person just show up with a bag and go ask for food?
Yes, you can. Usually we'll have a site attendant at either one of the sites. Now, they're actually sold at the kiosk right next to our site at 79th Street. We've been focusing, we just opened the 79th Street station in August. So we've been focusing on running that one. So if you come by 86 and have not site attendant, we encourage you to drop off your compost anyway.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker will be Jennifer.
Good evening, everyone. So the St. Agnes branch of the New Public Library. I just want to let everyone know that September is Library Card Sign-Up Month, just in case you weren't aware. If you don't have a card, you can come to the St. Agnes branch and sign up. And just want to let everyone know, besides all the great programs and services we offer at the library, your library card can also get you free admission to dozens of cultural institutions, so you can save money and discover more about your city. So it's through the Culture Pass program, so that you can check out the website culturepass.nyc. And some of the participating institutions include the Children's Museum of Manhattan, the Intrepid Sea, Air, and Space Museum, and the Metropolitan Museum of Art. We also have some great programs coming up in September. Saturday, September 29th, we'll be hosting our Back to School Open House. This is going to be happening, across all the libraries. It's a partnership with the New York City Department of Education to celebrate the back to school season and just to get students and their families better acquainted with libraries. So our event will take place in 12 before. We're going to have a lot of fun stuff planned, scavenger hunt, craft, prizes, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And also, real quick, we're planning some activities on Tuesday, September 25th, which I don't know if you're all aware, but that's voter registration day. So we're in the early planning stages for this, but we will have registration forms on hand, and also we're going to have training staff available to answer any questions about voting in the midterms in November. Thank you so much.
Next is Holly Rock, followed by Peter.
Hi, my name is Holly Rothkopf. I'm here today in my capacity with the State of Central Park NYC. First, I'd like to say we support your comments on item 2 regarding super tall buildings. At the last land use meeting, we discussed writing a text amendment, and we would encourage you to do that for implementation now and address the height limits in the charter revision. Thank you.
Hi, Peter Arnson with Columbus Amsterdam. We're north of 96th Street. And I wanted to let you know that we have an event calendar that's over on the table at the side. We have a number of really good events coming up this month. There's a number of festivals. On the 8th, it's wrong in our events calendar. It is Saturday, September 8th, with the Common Ground Festival up at Morningside Park, followed by our family days, of which the community board will have a table, but we'll also have music with Casa Matequilla, e-waste collection on the 16th, and a shredder on the 23rd. On both weekends, we'll have the Learn to Ride Bicycle for kids. There's the Bloomingdale History Group is having a walking tour on Wednesday the 12th at 6 p.m. of our neighborhood. And they have a talk that I also have a flyer for, the yellow ones on the side table, by John Tarnock, who has written a book about Manhattan's little secrets. It's about the built environment. And so he'll be giving a talk on 103rd Street on the 20th. Yes. Other things that I'll quickly mention, one is that we're having a meeting for small businesses on commercial waste zone, which is the city's proposal, this Thursday morning at 11:30. And at the St. Paul and St. Andrew Church tomorrow morning, there's going to be a talk for small businesses on how to respond to ICE and immigration threats, or threats from the immigration department. So.
Thanks, Peter. Next is Deborah. Has a question about Larry Silverstone's properties.
I can tell you what we do now. What we do know is that there's a 5-year lease for the buildings on Columbus Avenue going, but there's only 2 years on the St. Anthony properties.
I'm just a member of the community, so I don't represent any organization or anything like that. I'm just trying to be proactive. And I live on the west end sites, so the fact that you're telling me he only has a two-year lease on the west end, I'm just trying to be proactive. I'm trying to understand the process. I'm a little confused in the process of New York City and apartment buildings, et cetera, I'm more than a little confused about it. So I'm just trying to be proactive about it and wonder if there's any news on Larry Silverstein. Has anybody tried to contact Larry Silverstein? Because he knows what he's going to do with those properties. I mean, it's not finalized yet, but in the back of his head, he knows exactly what he's going to do with them. So any information that we can get, and I think we should keep it out front and keep it active.
What are the sites?
What is the
site?
I don't know who you
The ABC website.
Okay, what do you need to know? I'm sorry.
What are the sites and what's the issue?
The ABC sites, I'm sorry, I thought that Roberta had said something about it. I'm talking about the ABC sites that Larry Silverstein purchased for $1.2 billion. You've got it down at West 66, Central Park West, in Columbus, and you have the West End. There's 2 acres up on West End Avenue. I think it's 2.4 acres down on Columbus and Central Park West that he has purchased. So I'm concerned with what's going to happen based on what Excel is doing, based on 200 Amsterdam, et cetera, et cetera. So George James said that he can build a 1,000-foot building on the site on West End and a 1,600-foot building down at Central Park.
We are trying to stay on top of it. I know that Gail Brewer has been involved. And speaking of Gail Brewer, I'm going to ask Lucille Fonte if she will give the President's Award. Oh, Helen, do you want to speak first?
Stay there. Stay there. Okay, my arms are really good, but it's been 5 weeks. I'm fine. So actually, to the person who just asked about the Silverstein buildings, do you get my emails? Because I actually just sent around news with an update.
Yeah, and I copied your emails, I put them in our building, so that all 420 units in my building get to see it. So I thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure. And you know, you're exactly right. What you said out loud is how everyone feels. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's going to choose when to share that with the public, and then, you know, we're going to respond. We don't know yet whether or not he's going to do what, you know, what the scout has chosen to do, which is say that the buildings are going up as of right, and therefore there's no community input on what happens beyond safety, or if he's going to
do something that would require a review by this community board, the borough president, and then ultimately it would come to the council member for a vote. So we don't even know that yet. Your questions are good, you're right. We're trying very hard to be proactive, but I appreciate your bringing it up, and I'd be happy to come and talk at your building if people want to know more. And that's in general. People have invited me to their buildings, Helen knows this. Always happy to come, bring a land use expert, and talk a little more if people have specific questions. Sorry I'm running a little bit late. So I just wanted everyone to make sure they got my flyer that has a little bit of information about the town hall that Carranza is going to be having in our school district, District 3. And also an update as we move into September. We were able to successfully bring back the speed cameras, which I really credit not just Corey Johnson, but the staff and the lawyers in the city council were the ones who came up with a very creative solution. We talked about that here. As everyone has said, Election Day is on Thursday this year, so please remember to vote. And lastly, I listed out some of the school things that I've been able to plan. So I just wanted people to know about that. I do want to bring to your attention this wonderful flyer that CCHR brought, I guess. Did someone come from? Yeah. Woo-hoo! Sorry, so this is my bill, and this is what happens when a bill gets passed into law, and then the agency follows up and does what they're supposed to do. We're really getting the word out this year that sexual harassment exists. People don't have to feel ashamed about it, just the opposite. The perpetrators need to feel ashamed about it, and brought to pass. So I'm very excited this is here. Thank you, CCHR. And if anyone has any questions about the Stop Sexual Harassment in the Workplace Act of 2018, feel free to contact my office. What else is going on that I could answer questions about? It's the beginning of the legislative process again, and we'll be passing, Dan, we were just talking about Bergen Center. We'll be passing in our Mother's Day package of bills a requirement that everyone have access to a doula, and that the cities of 3RC, the Maternal Morbidity and Mortality Committee, be codified, so that we continue to attack this scourge of maternal deaths, particularly in the African American community. Richard?
Yeah, great news about the speed cameras. I read through the bill, which is I think number 1089, and I didn't see anything limiting the city to 140 speed cameras, which my understanding is that was always an artificial limit imposed by Albany. Can we encourage DOT to put up many more than 140 speed cameras?
What they're doing now is identifying 150 additional sites, so they get up to their 290 number that was passed by the Assembly. Thank you, Assemblywoman Rosenthal, for that. So that's the next step that should be happening shortly.
Great, but am I correct that state limits no longer apply at all because it's a city bill?
Yes, except that the way we wrote the bill was not
until the state takes over,
right? Until the state takes it up, and the goal is, of course, for them to take it up this year and bump up the number to 290.
Great.
Yeah.
Hi. As all agencies are doing in the city, you all have to take training on sexual harassment and fraternization. Fraternization is the next step. They talked about the fact that it could be consensual, but if the supervisor is dating an employee, then the colleagues of that employee very often feel at a disadvantage. That seems to be the next step, and I hope that you and your colleagues will work on that.
That's actually included in the law. So that exact terminology I hadn't heard before, but Included in the definition of sexual harassment is a supervisor having a relationship with a staff member, which is defined to be inappropriate.
Well, if this is not considered inappropriate, consensual.
Well, it's inappropriate in the workplace.
Right, and then the issue is, what about the colleague?
That's right.
The person who is in a consensual relationship, they're very much at a disadvantage.
Audrey, I've always appreciated your insights. The whole package is up on the city council website with the definitions. If you think it's not captured in there, let me know.
Okay, I'll take a look.
Sure. Okay.
Thanks. In the testimony of Community Board 8 about the charter revision, there is a relatively brief reference, but there's a reference to an effort on the part of the Charter Commission to limit or displace, I believe is the word they use, the role of the city council in certain land use issues. Is that something we should be concerned about? And is that going anywhere?
No. So the Mayor's Charter Revision Commission really focuses on campaign finance reform, and it may or may not take up some other issues, but it's my understanding that piece isn't going anywhere. But thank you for reminding me. The City Council competing Charter Revision Commission is starting to take testimony in September. And I think Gil Brewer's office has passed around, or we'll talk about tonight, the dates.
We have a resolution that we voted on.
Fantastic.
On the mayors, and then we have started a task force to look at the city councils. So we want to work closely with you on that. We were hoping to have a very large task force.
Fantastic. I look forward to it. Thank you. Ken?
Do you ever get questions on helicopters?
Sorry. There are a handful of, yes, I get questions on helicopters, and whenever I've taken, so for those of you who don't know, the private chartered helicopters from the west side helicopter port, pass right up Riverside and go across, usually to the Hamptons, and are just terrible noise hounds. Also, there's a downtown heliport where the tourist helicopters take off, and they are supposed to go up the west side just as far as, I think it's 79th Street, and turn back down. This is a very difficult industry to regulate. I have made my position clear on this, which is I don't think this is a meaningful industry in New York City. I don't think it employs a tremendous number of New York City residents, and I don't think it's critical to the economy. I don't believe people come to New York City to get a helicopter ride and travel around. And in fact, so I'm actually opposed to these helicopters based on noise, but also based on the pollution. They're, emitting these terrible pollutants into the air. The agencies and companies that work downtown, around the downtown heliport, are suffering because of it, including the Department of Transportation. But this is fundamentally a federal issue that our Congress people have tried to address for years. They've done the best they could. The City Council actually found a way, our lawyers found a way to stop the helicopters based on noise, because the FAA now has a noise criterion in how they judge the helicopters, but how they classify them. But we would need a majority in the City Council to pass that legislation, and we just don't have that right now.
Well, the only reason I was asking was that last night I was noticing unending parade of helicopters going east to west, basically across Main Street.
Probably people coming back.
Probably commuters from.
That's right, which the city has no control over, because we Again, that's FAA, it's federal stuff. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you very much. And when is your, when are we going to see you walking?
My guy just keeps telling me 2 more weeks. So I'm gonna believe him.
Okay. And now?
And we need to fix the curb cuts.
We do, for sure.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lucille Songhai. I'm Director of Community Affairs for Manhattan Borough President, Gail Brewer. Just a couple of updates for everyone. You've seen me standing here. I haven't been to a CB7 meeting in a while. Our liaison, Diana Howard, has left our office, and we wish her the absolute best in her new journeys. But that will also give us an opportunity to hire a new liaison, so I'm in the process of doing that now. But until then, you will see me. And so I just ask that any questions or queries or anything that you need from our office, that you just feel free to reach out to me, email me. Folks have my contact information. Roberta has it. I ask that you all share it with board members so that, you know, I can just hear your issues and we can get them to Gail quickly. Speaking of charter revision, we are a part of the City Council and Public Advocates Charter Revision Commission for 2019, which means that for us, this will be on the ballot for next year, next November. We've asked all community boards in Manhattan to establish a task force. So we're really happy that CB7 has done that, and to make recommendations to send to the wider commission for the 2019 ballot. We will be putting out information shortly regarding public hearings. The first actual public hearing for the Charter Revision Commission 2019 will be September 27th from 6 to 8 p.m. That's at a location to be determined. That's also the date of the Rikers public hearing for Manhattan for the new siting. And so we're hoping to have a location that will be very close, so that both groups, because there are overlaps in terms of people that are interested in both issues that want to participate. So we'll, make sure to keep everyone posted. I'm really excited to see you all pass this letter tonight. All of that is really important to us in terms of having that information, particularly at the public hearing. I know Gail was on NPR last week. She was on Brian Lehrer talking about term limits. I know that that's sort of the hot button issue that everyone wants to discuss. It's particularly something that the borough president feels very strongly about. There should not be term limits, particularly on issues regarding land use, making sure that we have consistency and also institutional knowledge on the board. We know that some folks vary on that issue and topic, but we really would like to hear from the community boards about what you would like to discuss and what you would like to see at these series of public hearings over the next year. We do have the loophole letter, so I'm glad that Lori spoke about it from the speaker's office. I actually have copies of the letter that I have over there on the table, so I ask that you just pick up a copy so that you can see it very nicely dovetails with the issues that you all will be bringing up regarding super talls. Our office is also working with Do It on a CRM, which is basically a constituent database. And particularly for CB7, you have a lot of constituents that come into your office to discuss various things like the parking issue and various other topics of concern. And so really it's a way for the board offices to track constituent work more consistently. And so we will be actually reaching out to all of the community boards to get your ideas about what, how to best configure this, this database for its best use. Also, we will be opening our Young Leaders of Manhattan application in a little bit, probably sometime in latter September. So we ask that any young people that you know, particularly young people that have an interest in activism. So I love this young man that got up and talked about composting. That's a part of activism. Environmental stewardship is really important. So we applaud you for the work that you're doing. A couple of other things. We are having an African American Day Parade celebration on September 14th at the Schomburg Center from 6 to 8 p.m. We ask that folks come out and have a good time with us. We're also going to be marching in the African American Day Parade on September 16th at 1 p.m. On Adam Clayton Powell Boulevard. And then we will be doing a event with the Attorney General's office in collaboration, talking about charities and a charity symposium for nonprofits around Manhattan. It's titled Doing Well While Doing Good. And so really the idea around this is to talk to nonprofits about how to be on the lookout for fraudulent queries, and you get all different types of people that are starting new charities, and folks aren't really quite sure what to do, and all the information and documentation that they need to have. So the Attorney General's office is working very closely with us on this. And then finally, as I said, the Rikers Manhattan public hearing for the new siding in Manhattan is September 27th at the Manhattan Municipal Building. And then I just wanted to say 3 additional events. Gail has forced me to do all these events. By the way, she's like, my people love events in CB7. So take it up with her that I'm taking all this time. We are having an event for Grandparents' Day on Sunday, September 9th. Day for grandparents. Yes. I'm very close with my grandmother, so yes. Sunday, September 9th from 2 to 6 p.m. at the National Black Theater. There's also going to be a federal hearing on the NYCHA lawsuit, and I know that that's something that folks have been really interested about. I know I've been reading a lot about NYCHA in the Post and in other forums. There will be a hearing on, let's see, I will get back to you on the hearing. I believe it's September the 12th. But basically, it's a time when NYCHA residents can actually come speak directly to the federal judge on issues impacting them in NYCHA. One of the things I'm really proud that CB7 and CB9, you all have been working collaboratively on this joint task force on NYCHA, which has been amazing. This would be a wonderful thing for both of your joint committees to talk about and to at least have some representation at, so I will send folks information. And then finally, on September 29th, we are hosting a My Brother's Keeper event in Harlem, focusing on Black men education. Okay? Everyone have a great evening.
We have Senator Bradwell, and he's going to be followed by the police captain, and then we're going to have brief reports from our elected reps.
Thank you, Roberta. And my report will be brief too. It's good to see everyone. Thanks for having me. I come here hanging my head in shame because I couldn't do what the city council and the mayor did today, unfortunately, which is renew the speed camera law and provide some more cameras. So I'm really, really disappointed in my own legislative chamber, not the state assembly, which did its job, but the state senate, which did not, as you know. So I'm hopeful that with a reconstituted legislature in January, new leadership will come in there and not only renew the speed camera law, but hopefully make it universal. There's no reason that every parent and every child should have the benefit of this kind of technology, which has been proven to reduce traffic deaths by up to 50%. So it is really astonishing that my colleagues did not see fit to renew that law. So I start on that, but I wanted to also add a voice of support to for our president for her excellent recommendations on the City Charter Revision Commission. As a former community board chair, I will tell you that I strongly oppose term limits. We all know that there are board members who have served longer than 8 years, and boy, do we need them. We need them for a lot of reasons, mostly for that institutional knowledge that new members don't have and know how to work the system. I'm in my 6th year now in the state senate, and I'm still have a lot to learn about how that chamber operates. That would be the same for community boards. So I'm going to stand toe to toe with the borough president and oppose those term limits. I'm hopeful that they won't make it to the ballot in November, but I guess it's likely that they will. Third, I wanted to take note, tomorrow being the first day of school, can't believe my daughter's in 3rd grade. I have in the back some of our family, parent and family resource guides. I hope you find useful. My staff spends all year trying to collect information for parents where they can access different services and resources. Elena here from my staff has done a great job of putting together, so I hope you'll pick up a copy. Thank you, Elena. And I wanted to finally mention and commend my colleague, Senator Rosenthal, for her work on the Child Victims Act. It's a bill that I carry in the Senate, like speed cameras, because I've been in the minority. I haven't been able to pass the Child Victims Act. But again, hopeful in January. Just remember when you vote this election, whether it's next Thursday or November, that of course elections have consequences, and we see that playing out almost on a daily basis here in the city and state of New York. So thank you for having me. Happy to report, happy to take any questions. Otherwise, I'll just go quietly into the night. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. Before we begin, I just want to quickly acknowledge 2 of the elected officials that spoke here tonight gave us great help in the 20th precinct. Since we last met over the summer, Linda Rosenthal, when Aldo was still here, he came to one of the community council meetings. My community council meeting wanted the NYPD to send its shredder trucks to the Upper West Side. We no longer have a shredder truck. And Aldo said, hey, you know, I think Linda could be on her event this year. And we piggybacked on it and referred all of our council members. And we helped promote Linda's event, which got a lot of views. And the second thing is that I've had a lot of requests to have a school crossing guard at 701 Westside Avenue, right by PS 199. Now we did the paperwork for that. We got the approval. We got the approved post. The department didn't hire anybody to fill the slots. And I made numerous calls downtown and got nowhere with it. Linda asked me about it a week ago, and she started making phone calls, and the word is we got that there'll be something tomorrow. Just thank you for that. With Helen Rosenthal, we did a walkthrough of the Amsterdam houses in mid-July and showed her some of the problems there. And when she did for the walkthrough, she had one of the top NYCHA officials join us. And we pointed out 2 problems. The first is that the software that the camera system relies on in the Amsterdam houses wasn't working properly. And the second problem was that where we took we had shots fired in June, was this dark corridor and all the lights were out. And we then actually NYCHA fixed both things. Helen did a walkthrough with me. She had a top NYCHA official there, and those things got fixed in a week. And it was really just, they didn't talk about that, but they've been very good partners to the NYPD over the summer. Something, I hope everyone had a good summer. Something kind of strange happened in the 20th precinct, is that crime started going down. Made me happy. So we were up, the last time I spoke, we were up about 12% for the year. Now we're up about 5% for the year. We're down like a whopping 39% in crime over the last 28 days. I really hope this trend continues. It makes my job so much easier. We now have for the last 28 days, we've had the most significant crime drop in the 12 and a half North precincts. Some good work, some good arrests. I'm not going to talk about them now, but I do put them on. We have a Twitter and a Facebook page. I encourage everyone to use them. 3 patterns I want everyone to be aware of. One is all over Manhattan North. Vespas. Vespa scooters get stolen a lot. Last year, in the 28-day period, there were 2. This year, they are 6. And it's happening all over Manhattan North. The 24th precinct right above me has about 3 times as many thefts of Vespas. It's kids coming down from the Bronx. They already recovered the Bronx. They go joyriding on them. They ride them around. And if you know anybody that has a Vespa right now, especially during the summer months, we really encourage people to try and throw them in the garage. Just pay for a garage over the summer. We actually had some good arrests. We arrested this 15-year-old kid that was trying to steal one. It's teenagers coming in. Secondly, construction sites. In the neighborhood, we've just had we've had a couple of burglaries, 3 burglaries in the last 9 days at construction sites. People going to steal tools. That's an overnight pattern. That's not many people are going to see. Earlier in the month, one in the East 60s and one in the West 60s We have 2 robbers, both male Hispanics, that pushed down each case. It was the exact same thing. They came up behind women walking alone. One of the women was over 80, pushed her down, took the purse. We have not caught them yet. We have very good photos. I'll refer you to the Twitter feed. They're up there. The crime prevention tips stay the same, and the way everyone here can just help us get the message out. We have a lot of crime that most residents don't see. ID theft, check fraud. Especially, it's not going to affect the people so much in this room. A lot of times the victims are elderly, and we ask you to just pass the word. If anyone asks you to pay for something in a gift card, if anyone calls, it could be somebody saying, I work for Apple or I work for Microsoft, and your computer needs service, go get me an Apple gift card or a Google gift card. It's not legitimate. If someone calls the IRS and says, go get a gift card, any service, the Social Security Administration, no public office, no company wants you to pay a gift card. But for some reason, we keep getting that scam and it keeps working. Go ahead.
There's also calling enough to say that if you don't call them back, you're going to be arrested.
It's not real. And the other thing is relative kidnapping. We kidnap your relative, like your nephew. Send us a gift card. Just call us first. Don't. And another one is people impersonating police officers. They are from like a southern police department. They say we've arrested your relative from another city. They find out what city you're originally from, and say, we don't take. No police department takes bail in Google Play gift cards. So it happens, and the thing is, most of the time it's elderly residents who don't know, who think that this is. They say go down to the local store. We're working with Dwayne Reed, CBS, and Rite Aid, and a couple of retailers, Best Buy. They put up crime prevention messages for us when someone tries to buy a gift card. It comes up like right there. We actually post signs, and actually pretty good with us, but it happens. And of course, I say this every time, never put a check in a mailbox, always go to the post office. I take a lot of grand larcenies for checks being stolen right out of the mail. They get altered for incredible amounts. The mailboxes here should be redone by the Postal Service in October. We talked to them a lot. They're moving their way down through Manhattan. It's sort of a very north tip. Hopefully that will fix everything when they get these these phishing-proof mailboxes. On to traffic really quick. I know there's probably a lot of questions about what happened on August 10th. The Australian tourist riding the bicycle on Central Park West. What happened was that a taxi driving a minivan. She was going up the bike lane, following all the rules of the road. A taxi quickly pulled into a bus stop on the east side of the street, to discharge a passenger. Pulled out of the bus stop, crossing the bike lane without looking. She swerved right in front of what looked like a garbage truck. It wasn't, it was actually a construction truck hauling refuse all the way from the west side. It was going to the Bronx, shouldn't even have been on CPW. She went into the back of the truck, it hit her head, it knocked her head into the pavement. She died immediately. The guy driving what looked like, it looked like a dump truck. It wasn't, a garbage truck. It wasn't. It was construction refuse. He flew a .032. He had beers in the cab of the truck with him. When you drive a commercial vehicle, the limit is .03. So he was arrested for DWI and also given a summons for being on CPW. Except he wasn't the real cause. The real cause was the taxi driver who pulled out in front. We took it to the ADA's office, and everyone on scene wanted to arrest. The collision investigation squad wanted to arrest. DA didn't want to prosecute. He was issued a bunch of summonses by us. A lot of cops took that one very personally. For our part, we wrote 260 summonses in the next 28 days, all moving violations, over 100 speeders, a lot of taxis. That's it. I'll cut it off. MTO program up and running at 2.0. Google us, 2.0 Precinct. When it comes up, you can contact your MTOs for any neighborhood issues. Thank you for your time, and by all means, come to our next community council meeting, which is Monday, September 20th.
Thanks so much.
Last time you talked about the robberies in Dwayne Reed's. What?
Yes.
Yeah, the larcenies, and you didn't report that, so I'm guessing those are down. Did the letter write?
Yeah, this is really interesting. So what Dwayne Reed did
is Dwayne Reed, in 3 of the 6 Dwayne Reeds for the 20th precinct, they put in security guards, unarmed, suit and tie security guards. They're basically from 3 to 11. And what we did is we immediately started looking at the data, and we had to wait until we had at least 60 days to have the right amount. When those guards are there, large needs from the Dwayne Reeds went down over 75%. And the results, compared to, basically set up an experiment with a control group and a treatment group. And the control group, they either stayed static or they went up. We took that data and we gave it to Dwayne Reed. And they acknowledged that it was working. And they said they reported to me that the funding of the security guards paid for itself in reducing the thefts. They just haven't done anything yet. So 3 to 6 have 8-hour coverage a day. It's still going on, taking about 2 or 3 a day. And the big issue with this, everyone's coming from outside, from outer boroughs. And these are like hardcore criminals. In a lot of cases, participating in organized retail theft. We're on it. We make a lot of arrests there. Our squad takes cases on it. They've gone down in those 3 stores. The goal is just, we're really pushing them internally within the department. After we got press coverage, is to expand that coverage. So we made a little progress, but I'm not even remotely satisfied. Good question.
Thank you so much. We are going to hear from a few of the elected reps. First is Luther Meisler, State Senator Bryan, followed by Daisy Moore from New York State Senator Serrano's office.
Thank you. My name is Luther Isler from State Senator Brian Benjamin's office. I was asked to come here last minute, but it was very important for him to have some updates reported here today. So I'm going to give those right now. So, firstly, he says, hope you all had a good Labor Day. Senator Benjamin is a strong supporter of the working people and the labor movement, and is currently working on a legislative response to the Janvis versus Ashby Supreme Court case that makes it harder for unions to collect dues. The senator has spent the summer organizing in the community and wanted me to highlight a few things. One is with community members. The senator recently got the city and state to deny the permit for a methadone clinic being placed in an inappropriate location. We're working with the city to find a better location for these essential services. After the family separation crisis, Senator Benjamin organized an uptown rally and introduced legislation to hold the federal government accountable for the children held in New York State. The senator has been working directly with advocates at Park West Village and with the governor's office on stopping the proposed JHL facility. He's committed to doing everything he can to make sure the building doesn't happen. September is National Preparation Month. We all know how much natural disasters can affect our community and the communities of our neighbors. After last year's hurricanes, the senator founded a relief and recovery task force focused on resilience and aid. I brought some information and preparedness for all of you to check out. There's some on the table in the back, and the senator will be sending additional info. Lastly, the senator has, it's been going on for about a year, a young adult task force, formerly called Millennial Task Force, now presently called Task Force Next. They will be hosting an event on September 25th. We will send an email. I don't have the flyers on me, but the idea is to move the idea of voting to be an idea of action as well, to increase not only the people who are registering, but people who are actually going out to vote. It is very important for voting time. Thank you very much.
Daisy, followed by Brendan Ward of Senator Quintero's office.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daisy. I'm from Senator Serrano's office. So unfortunately, because of the holiday, we're a little behind on our September newsletter. But if you're on our email list, that should be going out via email within the next day or so. And if you're not on our email list or would like it mailed, if you don't have access to the computer, you can just let me know. So our office, we do mobile reception hours. Thursdays are the Upper West Side. So Thursdays we're either at a library or the senior center. And this month we are also focusing on emergency preparedness. And we're hoping to have a emergency preparedness event sometime later in September on the Upper West Side. I believe the date that we originally had was September 17th, but I believe that's changing. So you just have to call the office for more information. That's going to be an emergency preparedness event, and they should be having the go bags that they give out with the emergency kits. And so our office number is 212-828-5829. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Brendan Ward. I'm from State Senator Marisol Alcantara's office. I'm going to be very brief with you. One piece of happy good news, there's going to be an unveiling. So we all know Little Italy, there's Little Odessa, there's Little Germantown, there's now going to be Little Dominican Republic. This is going to be unveiled this Friday, September 7th. Everyone is welcome. The event will actually be taking place at La Plaza de las Americas, which is on West 175th Street, a little bit north. But it's a very wonderful community, it's very unique, and so it's adding to the cultural sort of mixing that we have in New York City, which is so wonderful. We welcome you all to join us. If you want more information, you can simply email littledominicanrepublic@gmail.com. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, everyone. So the RAND Corporation actually is studying the New York Health Act, which of course is Assembly Member Godfrey's single-payer healthcare bill, and they have concluded what the Assembly Member has known all along, that a single-payer system, specifically this bill, would be beneficial for most New Yorkers. Precisely 90% of New Yorkers would actually save on healthcare and health insurance. And so you can find a copy of the full report on the Assembly Member's website. Also, I'm surprised nobody has mentioned this, but New Plaza Cinema, which is sort of taken on the lead for showing indie movies on the Upper West Side now that New Plaza Cinemas is closed, is actually going to be showing movies at Symphony Space on West 95th Street. And you can always go to their website, newplazacinema.com, to find out what movies are showing and when. Thank you.
We are now going to go into the business section. And the first item is the Charter Revision Task Force. Gail has written a letter to the commissioner. There are two commissions. There are two Charter Revision commissions, so everyone's clear on this. The first one is the mayor's, which is coming out, I believe, this week. It will be information that will be on the ballot. Gail Brewer's office is very concerned about term limits and also about the technical assistance to community boards. The technical assistance to community boards was going to be that the commission or some organization other than the borough president could create people to advise the community boards who would not necessarily be chosen either by the community boards or by the borough president. And so we were opposed to this. Gail was opposed to this. All of the community boards in Manhattan were asked to come up with a letter to the commissioner by their September board meeting. So I don't know if you've had a chance to read this. Richard, do you want to say a couple of words?
No, I mean, look.
Okay, so here's the thing on the term limits. The mayor's.
He was going to say
I think it's, if people have questions.
Who wrote it?
Answer, but I think it's fairly self-explanatory.
Okay. Do you have a question?
Yeah, is it possible to explain the process of who wrote this?
Yes.
Okay, this is when.
Yeah, I'll take the microphone.
Catherine wants to know who wrote this.
I wanted to know,
I wanted to know what the process was in constructing the letter and who authored it.
Okay. The letter was constructed with help from Gail's office by Richard Ash, myself, and Cindy Harper. The concerns about the term limits in the mayor's program is that they want to have committee board members could serve 4 consecutive 2-year terms, which means that a huge chunk of people on community boards who have knowledge about land use and other issues would automatically be off the board. In the last 2 years on our community board, we've had 14 new members. So the turnover is good, but we also have not lost members who have knowledge, who have institutional knowledge about whether it's preservation, whether it's land use, whether it's education. Andrew Albert today was, Andrew Byford couldn't praise you enough with your knowledge of transportation. So, these are people that would be term limited off the board.
Roberta, any reason why the Brooklyn Borough president's name is not on this?
He is for term limits.
He is for term limits.
Right.
I see.
Who is?
The Brooklyn Borough president's for term limits. I saw Clary's hands first, and then I'll take all of you.
So we're just feeling a little left out here because we, on the Parks, now called Parks and Environment Committee, we have very long-term involvement with such issues as the Riverside South Park, issues in Central Park. So we're feeling a little insulted that it's notably land use of just about everybody but us. So maybe if you're willing to add.
We'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
We accept that as a friendly amendment.
I think a simple statement that term limits can be accomplished by the borough president and council people, not reappointing people. And so term limits can be taken care of that way. We don't need to have informally.
Two questions. Is it the mayor's charter commission that is putting forward term limits for community boards, not the council?
So the council hasn't started yet.
Okay.
So the mayor had meetings, we found out 2 days before the hearing that there was going to be a hearing. And it was the night of other meetings that we had. So it turns out that only 2 of the community boards in Manhattan were able to testify at these hearings. The city council is starting their hearings. The first hearing, as Lucille said, will be Thursday the 27th. And we will be able to testify at that. We will also be, the city council will also be looking at the entire city charter.
There is a proposal from the mayors. Okay.
It's going to be on the ballot.
Do we have the proposal?
There's no formal language.
We don't have
Okay, so we don't know whether.
When will we have it?
The commission voted forward to
direct staff to prepare a formal amendment. But the outlines of the amendment are you can't serve more than 4 consecutive terms unless you go off for 2 years and then you can come back.
Starting when?
Starting April of 2019.
It's retroactive.
And my understanding is it is, but it's yeah, he'd be off and I would pay for it. But it appears to be retroactive.
Wow.
Well, that was kind of my question.
My question was
is
answered,
whether
so
it was
you can
prospective.
be reappointed after 1 term off.
Yes.
But in the meantime, we've lost that institutional member.
Roberta, there is a second microphone, and I propose it for you.
The problem is it doesn't have a far reach.
Well, whatever the reach is would make it less awkward than what is going on now.
I think
Roberta, it's just caught, Roberta. It's caught. Hold it.
Silence.
We're awkward now.
this document would be more persuasive without the third paragraph. Because the third paragraph is making claims that are more aspirational than accurate. And I think that the statement's very easy to challenge. And so, and I think you made the argument that this is not the solution. So I propose deleting that third paragraph.
Are there any more questions? Rich?
A quick comment. I missed who made this point that board presidents don't have to reappoint people. I think we might encourage the borough presidents to really scrutinize any applicant, whether it's a new applicant or an existing a renewal, to make sure that that person has a compelling reason to be on the board.
And actually, in the borough president's letter that was signed by 4 borough presidents, it actually states that that's their intention, that they will tighten the criteria.
Is that something we might put into this letter as a friendly amendment?
We could. We certainly could.
There is a penultimate paragraph that addresses that issue. The penultimate paragraph addresses that issue, and if you have a language to strengthen it, we can just add it.
Yeah, it does.
So we're going to make a few changes. We're going to take out the third paragraph. We're going to add parks and other committees. We're going to take one more comment.
Just a quick comment. I think the third paragraph should be retained. I just think it needs to be maybe reframed in terms of context.
So I think the third paragraph in terms of strength and demographics should be retained, but we just need to better frame it. Sounds good.
I think it also should be alternated.
Yeah, we're going to do that. We're taking one more comment.
I just think we should remember that Manhattan has been a model for the city in terms of appointment of community board members. Gail has done an incredible job of assuring that there's turnover, and when our people are appointed, there is a merit-based system, which is not the case, as far as I know, in any other borough, at least not to the degree here in Manhattan. So this is a citywide initiative, not just for Manhattan, which may not necessarily have a problem, but other boroughs do.
I think we can call the question. All those in favor? (36). All those opposed?
What did you just say?
36. All those opposed? 1. All those abstaining? 6. Okay. So we're now moving on to land use.
I'll walk over.
The first item are the super calls. And you may remember that in March, we passed a much longer resolution addressing this issue after we heard from George James. And we were asked by the borough president to sort of reiterate that the only, I mean, the thing that I want to highlight is that the super tolls result from a number of devices that these developers have developed, one of which is the height of apartments. So that there are now, so a lot of these buildings like are 50 stories, but they're 800 feet high. And of course, having a high ceiling doesn't add anything to the housing stock. It just adds.
Good architecture.
Well,
Sorry, the high ceiling actually does.
well, it adds to the enjoyment of the tenant, but it doesn't increase, let me put it that way, it doesn't increase the housing stock. We learned today that representatives of the 65th Street, 66th Street Block Association met with city planning. And city planning at the moment is opposed, not just opposed, they won't consider any change to the zoning resolution which restricts ceiling height in any way. And so what we felt was, number one, if we address all the known loopholes, next week there'll be more loopholes. And number two, we thought that having a rigid height restriction was also not the way to go. So we came up with this notion of a special permit, which requires that the community boards and BSA have input and can maybe affect the ultimate product of the building. But this is really a reiteration of the resolution that we passed in March. Claire?
I'm going to see if I'm on the roll with friendly amendments here.
Okay, you want to add something about the parks?
So I think you are
understating what you mean to say by saying reiterates our concern bordering on alarm. As far as I can tell from many discussions here, we are over that border and we are alarmed. And I would suggest taking out reiterates our concern. I would say reiterate, you know, do it any way you want, but we are alarmed.
We'll figure it out.
Ready?
Yeah. Maybe we'll type it in red. Michelle?
Thank you. You talk again about the building heights. Who's going to determine, you say, which may, the third paragraph, second paragraph. Providing that buildings in excess of a specified height, which may vary from district to district. Who determines the heights of those buildings and who would it therefore enforce that?
This one is very tricky because, again, just like city planning said no to modifying or restricting floor to ceiling height, the issue is they claim that they have no staff that can come and do the resurveying work necessary to do that. However, this community board has a history of challenging that. It's thanks to Ethel and her team years ago. And again, I hate to say it, but Gary's the genius behind Aerial East and West, and he's the genius behind this one on 66th Street. I actually like the building, but I find it way too tall. And I've sent my personal comments there. The issue though with city planning is that they're not in the architecture business, they're in the development business. So where I'm frustrated as an architect who wants to see good architecture and invigorating ideas is that it's out of control and there is no plan for New York City. So when challenging city planning or even the Regional Plan Association, which is years behind schedule, they're not addressing this. The problem is no one can enforce city planning because we have a mayor and REPNY that is so powerful in controlling the money and the growth of the city. Nobody, and the problem is nobody wants to say no growth. So we come full circle. So the thing is, we have to keep writing these letters. We have to individually write to city planning because maybe if they get tired of opening envelopes and hitting the delete button on their computer, somebody might wake up to the fact. Gail has been amazing. She's met with all the community groups and Landmark West, and kudos to Chris Giordano and his block association. And they're gonna spring up. The young lady who talked about the Silverstein sites, Landmark West is actually doing a study of that site and the 2.2 acre or 2.4 acre site on West End Avenue. And it is shocking that these are pieces of land that people thought no one's ever going to live west of West End Avenue. No one's going to live around Lincoln Center. So I would love to see, I'm just too tired and too close to this to write a sentence, but I think something has to be said about the control of development in New York City has to go back to the citizen. It can't be controlled by Red Wing. I don't know how we put it in, but I'm with you, Michelle, in terms of trying to grab attention in a different way, because what we're doing just isn't working. You know, we meet with these people.
Community board, because the CB7.
All right, well, Richard will add his
Wait.
But they just don't have the staff. The bottom line is they don't have the staff.
I can't answer, I didn't hear it.
The question is, how can you set up a height for different community boards? Each community board the height would be based on some number.
It would not be based on the community. It wouldn't be community board to community board. There are areas in our community board that can stand higher buildings than others. We had that issue with the area that Ethel was working on north of 97th Street, and we reached agreement with city planning on certain height limits for certain areas like Broadway. It was not uniform throughout the district, and it shouldn't be. There are some areas in our district, including Lincoln Center, that can take taller buildings, just not that tall.
I'm just suggesting it may affect, the height of the building may affect the light in another community.
No. Yeah, it's going to be contextual to the community.
No, Michelle, it will take into consideration the effect if somebody's going to have a shadow on the park, you'll take that into consideration. If 57th Street is going to cast a shadow on us, will be taken into consideration in our formulation. But as Paige said, we are a long, long way from getting any kind of satisfaction from the city on this.
Rich, we have a comment
Sure. Yeah. Please, yeah.
There were several things. In doing this, I think the best way to approach it and the best way of approaching city planning is go to them with specific ideas. And one of the things which I think that over here, when you talk about contextual zoning, which is height limits, so you don't have to include that, contextual zoning is height limits, but, and saying that a special permit for buildings that have to go above it is a great idea. And we go to them with a specific idea. There are things here where you talk about newly developed construction techniques. City planning cannot control that, and putting that in, doesn't do anything. But the thing is that you have to go in and discuss specific areas with specific ideas and why something doesn't work. The real problem here is we're talking about volume, and volume is FAR. It's floor area.
No, volume is not FAR.
What nobody has come around with yet is some idea to get rid of the idea of voids, because that's really what's messing us up.
Let me just interject two things, because I've been in many meetings with Gail and city planning and the community through Landmark West. We come up with ideas. We bullet list every single loophole. Peter and I talk about this almost every morning. He gave me coffee for 4 months straight, just to educate each other as architects about what can be done, if anything. And the problem is, you have to understand, first of all, this whole situation starts when the applicant files for zoning and egress with the buildings department. This could have stopped at the building department if the building department had someone who was educated to understand the nuances of zoning. That's point one, because all they're doing is checking boxes. The second issue, but wait a minute, let me just finish. The second thing is, city planning is immobilized right now. It doesn't matter, we could come up with the best ideas. Richard was saying,
Okay.
City planning doesn't want to deal with this.
Tall buildings, because that was what the idea of New York City was. What we have to do is go there and say, fine, tall buildings in Midtown, great. But the idea of tall buildings in residential areas is not. Zoning protects the city. It's the reason why you have low zoning on the side blocks, you have higher zoning on Broadway, on the larger blocks. It actually works.
It does let me just answer that. The issue is, when that zoning, which is old, 1961, based on 1916, we had manufacturing districts, residential districts. It was zoned. People lived in a residential district. Now we have mixed use. We have Lincoln Center, a theater, a post office, a school, underneath everything. And yes, it is, but the city doesn't look at that anymore. They look at a developer who's bringing a retail base, they're bringing a school in, and then they're going out and getting the best value for the housing. And it's very frustrating. Peter, want to add something?
I'd like to speak for a minute. I never thought that as an architect I would come out against an issue like this. I grew up in an age where a super tall building was 30 to 35 floors maybe. And I've designed a few of them, but we have something that is really unique now. It started on the 57th Street corridor, and now it's moving uptown. And buildings like those on the west side on 66th Street and on 69th and 70th Street that go up to heights equivalent of 70 to 80 floors and cast shadows. In the case of 66th Street, the shadow is cast from west to east across Central Park. That's different than from 57th Street, where the shadow goes from south to north and is not very big. I calculated that the shadow on the building at 66th Street will go all the way to the Bethesda Fountain, which will be in shadow in the afternoon after 3:30 on most days in the middle of the year, not the longest or the shortest days. Now that's a pretty big thing. Imagine you're at the Bethesda Fountain and there's a shadow from a building on 66th Street that is cast on you while you're enjoying the fountain. I mean, that's crazy. You know, these buildings, these super tall buildings need to be controlled more than the usual way. And so I'm very much for the idea of a special permit and BSA approval for these buildings.
Peter, I like what you said about the shadow, and I think if no one objects, we can add a paragraph about that specifically with respect to the 66th Street building.
We're gonna take 2 more comments.
I have a question. Where's the affordable housing in these buildings?
There was, and it was actually moved from Riverside South to this site, and it was shunted further north. And he has no floor area left to be able to build affordable housing at that site.
To say that it's going to be off-site would be an understatement. It's going to be nowhere near the site. Ethel? Let's take Ethel, Mark, and then Jay. Go ahead.
Okay, this is commendable. It is also somewhat confused. I'm looking for some degree of effectiveness in this statement by choosing some of the points. I will say, allow me please, that the shadows question, this is extremely important and yet very difficult to define. Sadly, I'm a veteran, probably the only one on this board, of the great phenomenon of the shadows in Central Park as we all stood to question the Columbus Circle site, and that was the development of using shadows, and we all stood there to show how far the shadow would go. So there's a certain history with that. I would suggest that there are many different things here that you've said. I would suggest that it's somewhat awkward and that you try to pull out and just do it. They're very complicated questions, but just make the points as simply as possible. And that is one having to do with the floor-to-floor height. By the way, using the word loophole all the time, it's not a loophole. It's not something to get around. It's in the building code.
That's what a loophole is.
Yeah, but it's also completely legal.
That's what a loophole is.
Okay, but it's the implications about the excessive floor-to-floor height in housing, which also goes with, to some degree, the use of voids. Here's the thing. The goal that we're objecting to is the priority given, the overwhelming priority by developers making money to height. Height above all. Now, New York's in part always been about height, but we're now trying to say, hold on, it is height above all, and for whom? For a luxury group of a minority of the population seeking housing and who want height more than ever, more than anything else. I think it gets a little mixed up. It's not that I'm not in favor, but I think it gets mixed up if you start asserting you want contextual zoning. Neighborhoods are different, and contextual zoning is another matter that you can't even mandate around the city. So I would make 3 or 4 points here quickly. One, about the floor-to-floor height, and to limit that in residential, because that would go a long way, by the way, to prevent these very large towers. 2, on the voids, and that to regulate the voids, and the argument there can be done, it's a big deal, but you could do it in 2 sentences, which is that by creating the voids, they locate, mechanicals are in the void, and the effect is get the building up as high as you can. This can be regulated. It has implications for the fire department, and you could throw that in. The third point, I would just say one bullet, because city planning already knows what we want, but now we gotta make it economical and punch it, okay? So that's what I am suggesting. I think it gets very mixed up with we want contextual zoning all over the place, because there's big questions about that, even though I've also been the chair of task forces that have said, let's do contextual zoning in Ward 7.
Well, look, 2 things. Number 1, we had a resolution in March which did exactly what you're suggesting. So your suggestion is a good one, but we've done it. Number 2, we don't mention contextual zoning in here. Contextual zoning is a technical term that has only been applied so far. Okay, you're right, sorry. Yeah, we can, I get your point on contextual zoning. But the notion of limiting heights and limiting heights district by district, I think is important. And, you know, if we can do that, it would be good. If we can't do that, we have our other points which are in the prior resolution. Mark?
Yeah, that was more or less what I wanted to raise. I support the resolution because its import is one of a more general statement that seeks to transcend this itemized list of things which you make the point in the resolution, is always susceptible to further, pardon the word, loopholes. So I think that that's great. I think adding the point about shadows is a good one, but I would recommend that we pass this resolution because it complements, not supersedes, the previous resolution. And I don't think this will be the last time. So to Louise's point, which I agree with, that we're going to have to end up being quite granular about this and quite specific. I think that this is not the last time we're going to be talking about this. And therefore, I think that this resolution should pass, and then we keep working.
My last comment is Jay. We're going to citizen speak.
So, an observation and a question. The first, you're giving us, asking us to vote, I support the resolution, and you're giving us two alternatives to deal with this height issue. One is the expansion of contextual zoning with specified heights, and I understand the difficulties citywide of establishing heights in different zoning districts. My question in your second alternative, which is take a specified height, and then if you propose to exceed the height, requiring a special permit. My question is, what body grants or would grant the special permit? And secondly, I mean, it may be impossible to do so, but there are no standards for granting a special permit. Give me an example of how somebody would prove that they deserve a special permit.
We may be getting too much into the weeds here, but many years ago, there was
Just a couple of little weeds.
There was a special permit procedure in the zoning resolution that enabled a developer to go from, as I recall, from 10 FAR all the way up to 14 FAR. And it required, as a condition of that, a special permit. The special permit procedure meant that the developer had to come to the community board, try to make a deal with the community board, then go to city planning, try to make a deal with city planning to get their extra FAR. So it's a trade between, for extra FAR, we get to look at the building and maybe have some input into how tall it is, how it looks. In those days, we also got cash considerations for projects in the community. We might get additional affordable housing. But the idea of a special permit is that it is no longer as a right. That's the basic bottom line.
Two examples that we look at all the time is when we do a public plaza, like the ones that we look at near Lincoln Center. The developer got additional floor area to be able to do that for a public plaza. And that's gone adrift because now they're trying to enclose the public plaza to sell it as retail. The big problem that I see here as an architect with these excessive floor to ceiling heights, there used to be a limit of that ceiling height, so you couldn't add another floor. At 20 feet, you can add a deck in there. So over time, what sounds great, you buy an apartment that's one level, and then the next owner comes in and bisects it, and it has a two-story duplex in there. So suddenly the dynamics and the cost value of that real estate is immeasurable. And it's very hard for city planning to judge it. Another example is open space. And not only just the plazas, but open space. We used to give, if you look at all of Wall Street, that wonderful building that has the clock and the calendar on it on Water Street, it's a white building. I thought that was the best thing since sliced bread. But they're not maintained. Nobody can police them. You don't get a fine for not having the clock working. So we are at a crossroads now where, as Peter said, we have 57th Street on our doorstep. It will now go, just to make the horror story true, 66th Street in Central Park West. We'll have Silverstein 1/2 a block away. You'll have 200 Amsterdam. And then you will have this building at the ABC Studios. So there is the new D-Mark line. Suddenly, Midtown is in our residential district. And that was the point I was trying to make about trying to say we're in a residential district. It doesn't matter.
It says we're in effect moving from the Upper West Side to Midtown without moving.
Exactly.
Let's call the question.
All, the question's been called. All those in favor of the resolution, we're gonna add the shadow, we're gonna take out the textual zone.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Why did you take out the textual zoning if that's what you want?
The word, because what we want is height limits, which,
30, 31, 32, 33.
The development world and the planning world understands the
yeah, but it's a two-edged sword.
How many were for?
We have 33 for.
How many are opposed? All those opposed? All those abstaining? One.
Thank you. No, we have one more. Yeah, this one is pretty easy. 33-0-1. Okay. This is this is actually a special permit. It's a health facility. It's a climbing wall. It's in a brand new building on West End Avenue. The developer of the climbing wall has several projects throughout the city. We found that it was basically innocuous, and we voted to approve. Any questions? All those in favor?
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. Opposed?
Abstaining? Resolution carries 35-0. Thank you.
I think it's 36.
I was 36. Okay, so 36. When?
Yes.
I'm freezing, so I'm going to talk really quickly. This first application, 242 West 76th Street, which is the Dover Hotel. Jerry, can you go to the next one, or whoever's turning it, can you go to the next one, please? This is an application to add some air conditioning units on the roof. What you saw before was the front elevation. These photos show. There we go. From a distance, what is being proposed is minimally visible. On the rooftop, there were some condensers. Can we go to the next one, please? And they're proposing to add more condensers both to the to the lower roof, and then the next one I think shows the upper roof. They are 4 feet high. They're light beige metal enclosures. They're minimally visible from a long distance, but our committee found that they were visually minimally appropriate in the sense that they really were very similar to a lot of other roofscape architecture. They weren't making any statements, they were just sort of background the way water towers and such are. And so we voted to approve this as minimally appropriate. All in favor? All.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16,
What is
17,
minimally
18,
appropriate?
19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31.
It's a lower standard.
31.
I'm sorry, what is it?
31.
Thank you.
Any opposed? Opposed? Abstain?
So it's 31 to 0 to 0 0, is that correct? Okay, this next application is for the Old West, which is now Jacob's Pickle. And these is on Broadway at 84th Street. And these are old
historic photos of the building. It's a very cool kind of deco building, and this is where West used to be and is now Jacob's Pickle. And it's for storefront renovation. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this is the existing conditions. And one of the things, the signage, I believe, was changed without an application. And so they're proposing to make this, get this approved, and then you'll see a proposal for the facade itself. The interesting thing is, if you can see, there's a ghosting of the word West underneath, and that's intentional. It's not like they didn't clean it off. It is left there as a sort of a memory of a long-term restaurant in the neighborhood. So right now they have kind of this mishmash of facade, and let's go to the next. And the proposal is, this is the existing, let's go to the next, please. Is for a series of more equal-sized glass, and then transparent and patterned glass, so that you can't see through all of it, but it's got a more even grid. A door that works, these doors will open in the warm weather to allow for the cafe. Next one, please. And so again, this is existing and proposed. And we felt that this was actually reasonably appropriate given the context and the design of the building. Is there another one? I'm not sure. Oh, that's just showing the plan of showing how this is the existing single door fixed windows. This will now open up so that they can allow for easier service outside and more feeling of indoor-outdoor. Is there one more? Yeah, that's the proposal of what's going to look like. We voted to approve. Any questions?
Call the question.
I'm sorry. I just need to know that you thought about
Paige, I
this.
can't hear you, I'm so sorry. No, I don't think it was that, it was people talking, go ahead.
Sorry.
I just need to know that you thought about this. If you go to the view of the proposed with the whole building, this is a very important architectural building.
So go back to like the at least one before where there was the rendering. No, keep going.
Keep going, that way. The issue is the verticality in this building is so important. And even though I agree all the storefronts are variations on the theme that are not great by any means, the problem is Pickle, because it has the old remnant of the diner type sign and being a different color than everything else, that grid just doesn't seem to fit the context of this building. If anything, they should be going to a more vertical, improving on the vertical thing rather than creating this individual statement, which is a mistake. I mean, none of them are great, but I would push the Landmarks Commission to get them to keep the sign, but create a more vertical component to start the other storefronts moving in the right direction, because Harrods is not going to be there forever, neither the hardware store. 5 Napkin Burger might be there, I don't know, but I think you've got to help landlords try to restore these amazing buildings, like the Fred French building downtown. Okay, it's got Tommy Bahama in it or whatever now, but at least over time, it took them 15 years, but the building is stunning.
I just throw that out there.
Yeah, 2 more.
And I just, to add on to that, I just wonder about the rhythm of the windows down there. Like that's what is so jarring to me and was concerning seeing these plans. So I agree with Paige. It's just so jarring. It doesn't seem right for the context.
I think Clary has something, and then I can respond briefly, but.
I have a different issue about this one and any other one that comes before us that involves what you've referred to here as bifold doors, allowing the restaurant interior to open out into the sidewalk cafe. This is a much narrower restaurant than some others, but the principle is the same, which is that the operator of the restaurant cranks up its air conditioning and is using petroleum-based, non-renewable resources to create pollution and cool the Upper West Side. And I am very against
any renovation that creates these kind of opening sets of windows so that the air conditioning is going to be on the inside and it's going to be cooling the Upper West Side. So that's why I oppose this one, and any similar one as well.
I actually don't, I mean, if you look at the context of the street, look at Harris Shoes, Basics Plus is not gorgeous. The owner of this restaurant actually worked with the community board because they originally were hoping for a larger footprint on the side street and realized that they couldn't do it. And we wanted to work with them to help them out because we want this restaurant to succeed. And this has been a very community-oriented restaurateur, small business owner. I don't have a problem with the way, especially in context to the street presence to begin with. So I'm going to obviously vote for it, and I'm certainly going to support a small business owner in this community.
I'm also going to support your resolution, and I think that while we're on the topic of using oil and air conditioning, that should be part of what the conversation about the super tools also. 20-foot ceiling uses a lot of oil to air condition it. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander, so to speak. But I support small businesses in the neighborhood and will support this resolution.
Gabby, you want to call a question?
Wait, Mark wanted to say something, and he's Mark, so I'd like him to add. Mark said.
I'm going to take Paige's point, but go in a different direction with it, because one of the things that struck me in looking at the design when it was presented was actually its verticality, even though it's a smaller scale because of that historic sign is above it and it limits the amount of space available for it. But especially as the doors bifold in, and Clary's point is well taken, but there is a city council law already on the books that prevents us from opening doors during air conditioning season. So I think that is covered. My concern actually, when I first saw this, was that because of the bifold, that maybe it was a little too vertical, but satisfied myself that in fact it was appropriate, both in context and in and of itself, because those are tall, thin doors. It's a very narrow opening. And so I take your point, but go to a different place with it.
And I think that's what the committee in general did, because we did feel it was responding to the essence of the verticality, but at the same time not prescribing. None of the historical documentation, even way back in the 40s, showed us that there was a facade, a storefront set of facades that was exactly like that. And I think we still welcome storefronts that have some variety, but this in particular had, in the committee's opinion, a greater deference to the sort of level of detail and to the verticality in the three things. So that's where it came from. Okay. So we voted to approve as reasonably appropriate. All in favor?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28.
And opposed?
Opposed. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Abstaining? 1.
No,
there's 3.
3.
And abstaining the cause is 4.
4.
28 to 4 to 0.
28, 4, 4, 0.
So now we move to 271 Central Park West, and this is rooftop mechanical kind of work. Can we go to the next slide? So the rooftop apartment has is the point where there are access points to both an elevator bulkhead or an elevator service area and to valves that are under a water tower. And so the proposal here is to build an enclosure for elevator mechanicals that allows people to go to the roof and service and not have to go to the apartment below. And similarly, it closes and heats the valve controls for the water tower. So again, it doesn't have to be accessed through people's apartments. And this is something that is minimally visible from the park. There we go. So this is existing and proposed. We're adding another small bulk. They are adding another small bulkhead next to the elevator that is similar in vocabulary. And then underneath the water tower, they're enclosing the space so that again, a workman or workwoman can come up to the roof and get there and not have to go into this apartment and go through their ceiling. Next one, please. Just another set of views of the proposed above and the existing below. Next one, please. So they showed us that it is minimally visible from a great distance across Central Park or in the park. And again, like 2 applications ago, we found that within the context of the roofscape architecture of bulkheads and water towers and stuff, what they were proposing was minimally appropriate. So we voted to approve. Any questions? Shall we call a question? All in favor?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37. Opposed? Abstained?
Okay, the last application, this is 325 West 93rd Street, and this is an application to install an awning over the front door, to install window guards over the first floor fenestration, and to do some modification of the railings. So this is the existing condition, and let's go to the next slide, please. And they're replacing the doors, but I don't think that's part of this application. So their proposal is to install a black awning that curves slightly over the front door, to change the railings so that they're actually, I think they're they no longer have vertical supports, and then to put in window gates. Can you go to the next one, please? And so this is a close-up of what that awning looks like. It doesn't project all that far. There's some lighting proposed. This is the handrails, and then the next one, please. So they're just putting in the awning and showing us what that looks like. And one more. So this is showing the different window guards. And what we found that the railing and the railing change and the canopy seemed reasonably appropriate. We did recommend that it's, in lieu of doing different kinds of spacing on the window bars, that they all be consistent, and that we made that recommendation in our resolution to approve. So that is the extent of the application. Any questions? All in favor?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37.
Okay, the meeting is not over. There's one more item on the agenda. The agenda is already printed. The BCI committee wants to make a presentation.
At our last meeting, I promised that we were going to get together as a committee and talk about, or begin a conversation about cafes, and in particular, the enclosed cafe issue. I want to thank everybody on the committee for getting together during the summer, sharing your ideas, and not accepting my invitation to buy you pizza. That's the thing. We will have a media presentation also of sorts, but not tonight. November, December, we're going to get that together because we think you should see all of the enclosed cafe sites. But a couple of facts for you. The Department of Consumer Affairs issues the license for an enclosed or unclosed cafe. And I'm going to talk to you about enclosed cafes. The role of CB7 is to advise DCA, that's Department of Consumer Affairs, so I'll use those initials, whether BCI approves or disapproves an application for an enclosed cafe. Every applicant comes to BCI to renew their cafe, their enclosed cafe. Every applicant is required to give the community notice of when they will appear before our community. It is part of the BCI procedure to personally go to an applicant's restaurant before our committee meeting to confirm that the notice to the public is posted. The community is invited to speak at our meetings, as you know. During my tenure as co-chair, there has been no opposition to the renewal application of any restaurant enclosed cafe. DCA can restrict the number, location, and size of the cafes. DCA does not allow cafes on every street in New York City and by definition in the CB7 district. So we cannot have an explosion of enclosed or unenclosed cafes. The last enclosed cafe in the CB7 district that was approved was in 2006, 12 years ago, and that was Artie's Cafe on Broadway. There are now 16 licensed enclosed cafes in the CB7 district, and some like PJ Clark's, which Doug told us was showing the movie Annie Hall 40 years ago, have been around for decades, some 30, 25, in the case of PJ Clark's 40 years ago. It was O'Neill's. CB7 does not have the most cafes. That distinction belongs to the Upper East Side and Midtown. As you know, each cafe is unique. The location and the square footage are unique. The type of restaurant that has an enclosed cafe wants the full range from diner to kosher to ethnic, new food, ideas, home cooking, anything. And we have it all here, thank heaven. Now, I'm going to show you why you want to open a restaurant. Each cafe pays a consent fee to DCA by zone. CB7 is in zones 1 and 2. The demarcation line is at 96th Street. In zone 1, Manhattan, 96th Street to the tip of Manhattan, the minimum consent fee is $5,159.23 with $40.31 added for each additional square foot. For example, the West Side Restaurant, that diner on 2020 Broadway, West 69th Street, you know that, you've been there, has 422 square feet of enclosed cafe and therefore pays DCA $90,266.51 every year. This is in addition to the cafe fees, over the application fees for over $1,000, rent, taxes, payroll, a $4,000 security deposit, a city planning fee of $55 per city with a minimum, an architectural plan review fee of $310, other licenses like an SLA license, equipment, insurance, workers' comp and liability, alcohol, food, supplies, lawyers, accountants, architects' fees, and of course is unaffected by the unpredictable events such as what the weather will bring and when that damn scaffolding will be taken down. We at BCI will continue to listen to the wishes of the community to maintain an environment that fosters the growth and continuation of small businesses and keep an active watch on what we can do to alleviate the empty store syndrome that affects all communities, leaving us to compete with all of New York City for a smaller pool of business to occupy those empty spaces. BCI encourages all board members to give consideration to those restaurants when they renew their licenses because the revenue those restaurants generate by the cafe, in part, is vital to existing small businesses and the jobs they create. Remember too that many of these restaurants are loved by local people and people from out of town, people who have lived in the neighborhood, gone to the restaurant 30 years ago, moved to New Jersey, but every time they come back, they go to that restaurant. They're loved by the neighbors and their location contributes to the liveliness and safety of the neighborhood. BCI has therefore decided to review each application separately and on its merits, as we have done in the past, with honest conversation, open dialogue, and good humor. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks for listening. Really, thanks for my whole committee, I think with the copy. Thanks to the whole committee for getting together.
Motion to adjourn.
Thanks.
Thank you all so much. We'll see you on October 2nd. Committee meeting.